The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my tickets!
Everybody loves hip photos.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Helps if I put us all in the box. Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premier podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, as God intended, it is only the wise men. Put your hands on camera. The wise men have reunited, as this podcast was supposed to be. Ladies and hear voices. Ladies and gentlemen, first, he is the host of Source Material. He is my brother from another mother, my hetero life mate, and a pretty cool fruit who knows where his towel's at. His wife calls him Chesty, but you can call him Stiznarky Jesse Starcher. How do you do, sir?
Oh, Mark Radulich, I am so glad to be back and talk about the third and final season of Ash versus Evil Dead. It's going to be a fun one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then we can start a new TV series next month. I'm very excited. Always very excited to start new TV with you, but now we got to deal with old TV first. Speaking of old TV, ladies and gentlemen, he's the host of Damn You Hollywood, co-host, and the host of the 411 Ground and Pound radio show, Mr. Robert Winfree. How do you do, sir?
I'm doing all right, and it's nice for the triumvirate to reassemble.
Yes. The wise men. That's what I call us. We are talking Ash versus Evil Dead Season 3 tonight. We are doing the show at Robert's behest from 8,000 years ago.
The year of the flood.
Yeah. So we are wrapping that up tonight. Ash versus Evil Dead premiered February 25th, 2018, and then was canceled on April 29th, 2018. However, the wiki tells us that in July of 2022, Campbell confirmed that an animated revival was in active development, whatever that means. The third
We get to be moderately hopeful about the future of the franchise.
The third season was 10 episodes long, ending with the Medal of Man. We'll get into it. So the second season brought back Lucy Lawless's character, this time as the villain, and in the third season she's like this old version of Ruby that has taken up residency in Elk Grove, is the villain of the season. Last season we talked about Ash and his dad. This season, the big thrust, the big sort of central piece, and this is where I want to start talking tonight, is with his daughter, which he didn't know he had. He's told in the first episode that he has a daughter from a tryst with a woman who he doesn't remember the name of, which is totally an Ash thing.
Yeah,
And
very much.
And in just like, Evil Dead fashion, the woman is summarily killed by evil and
Decapitated with a symbol. I don't mean like a
Yeah.
metaphorical symbol. I mean like a drum symbol with a C.
like decapitated with an American flag. Yeah, symbol of freedom.
You really do have to watch out for the biohazard sign. It'll get you. It'll right through there if you're not careful.
That's right. Punishment for all my sins. I repent. Wait, that's a different biohazard. So anyway, so the major thrust of season 3 is Ash and his daughter sort of finding each other, bonding, developing relationship, testing that relationship. Also, we have the character's name, not Pablo, but the girl,
Kelly.
Kelly. Yeah, Kelly was sort of convinced last season that Ash might be Ash and the whole patriarchy might be holding her back, and that she's a big, strong woman who don't need no man, and she can take on evil herself. And this season, she attempts to do so with poor results.
I would say mixed results. Some of it works out okay. Some of it most certainly does not.
No. Pablo comes into his own this season as this great mystic, evil fighting
El
warrior.
Brujo Especial.
That's the one.
Especial.
Yes, especial. So, yeah, Pablo starts to use his magical powers this season, and he's more than just Ash's sidekick. And that's where we are at the beginning of season 3. This season is about making sure that the prophecy does not come true, if I remember correctly, Robert. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a bit of that. It's Ruby is what she's really trying to do if we're talking about the plot.
Yeah.
There's always a prophesied one. It's kind of the thrust of the Necronomicon. There's always a prophesied one who's going to fight evil. What she tries to do is get the prophecy and the powers associated with it away from Ash and into something else. So to that end, she basically creates a clone of him that actually has some rather humorous sequences as a Scandinavian couple gets pieced up and fed to the baby and the baby has a. It's weird how kind of cute they make the baby with the weird chainsaw hand because he doesn't.
Oh yeah.
And the first time he and Ash meet, like it's again weirdly cute.
Yeah.
And then it gets creepy because it's supposed to be.
Sure.
But her goal is to make sure there's no other like Williams line out there for it to go into, and then if she kills Ash with another prophesied one ready to go, then all the stuff that would be Ash's to fall on goes into this evil version of Ash, and then there's no one to stop evil. Is kind of the basic gist. Like, oh, there's a vessel for all things that oppose us. Well, if we can get that into a vessel that's more sympathetic to our cause,
right? Okay.
Things will go easier for us. This is complicated because Ruby is one of the people who betrayed the Dark Ones, the immortal beings who created the Necronomicon, and they're trying to get out of whatever dimension they're trapped in and come wreak their vengeance and then wreak havoc on the world. So you get a little bit of the payoff to Ruby's pitch from the first season, which is this could be a lot worse than me. And then this version of Ruby just couldn't stop being too much of an evil person to too much going on there. She couldn't stop pushing the boundaries. But you can kind of see where the first Ruby was coming from logically about, hey, let's make a deal. I'll keep this under at least some degree of control. Because the other Dark Ones, well, they're the ones you really don't want to mess with.
I'm going to throw this out there. I want to talk about Ash and her daughter because for me, that's the whole thing with this season. That was really for me the only hook. Maybe there was other stuff for you guys, but for me, the stuff with him and his daughter was what I keyed into the most, which brings me to sort of an overall complaint that I am curious. You don't have to agree with me, but I am curious to see how you feel about this. By about halfway through season 3, I was over this whole fucking show. Like, it was a lot. It's a lot of the same stuff every episode, over and over and over again. It got needlessly complicated and convoluted. And I don't want to talk about the ending just yet because that's its own separate conversation. But I was not particularly satisfied with how this ended.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm gonna try and sell you on the ending when it's all said and done. But
okay, which you're fine. I'm open to being sold on it, but I'm just my initial gut reaction is, oh my god, this is more of the same. Oh my god, every fucking episode's the same thing. The only thing that works here is Ash and his daughter. I can't wait for this to be done. Robert, in your initial watch of this show, if you can recall your memories of it, did you get to that place, or were you just like, yeah, no more of this? I'm sad it's over.
I was sad it was over because I think the original ending of season 3 was going to be different if they had another season.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand your point, and I do have some complaints about it when it comes to season 3. There's a few beats that get repeated a bit too much. That's absolutely true. I was sad it was over because this scratches a very particular itch.
Mm-hmm.
If you, as a product, you don't find this very often. Like there's not a lot out there that is this kind of material. And anytime that goes away, even if it's reached kind of a natural conclusion, it's cause for a little bit of sadness. I mean, I had much the same reaction when Hannibal was canceled, because
Hannibal was so much better show, and it wasn't as quite as structurally rinse repeat as this one was.
True, but you're asking like kind of what the emotion was.
That's fair.
The emotion was similar because like Hannibal was something that I don't say this very often about television, but that was a very much like for me kind of thing. Like nobody's. I mean, we talked about it when we reviewed it. Like this is not a secret that everything about that pretty much was in my wheelhouse.
Yep.
There's not a lot of television out there that is made to appeal to me, or that I mean, made to appeal to me is a bit strong. It's a bit narcissistic way to put it.
I'm smiling because I'm trying to change some behaviors. We talked about that already. We don't need to talk about it live, but it's so hard to do when you set me up like when you say things like this was made for me. This was a very me show, and I'm like, damn it, behave. Please continue.
Tell you what, I'll give you the one for this show. Go ahead.
Wait, I'll tell you what. Now that if I have one in the holster, I'll fire it.
Okay, fair enough. I don't mind one. I don't mind one every like 3 shows. It is completely fine.
I can't take a swing at something that's already in the catcher's mitt.
That's fair. I mean, you could try, but I've seen baseball players do that.
Fucking hit the catcher.
Yeah. But there's just not a lot of horror television in general is a bit sparse, not non-existent, just sparse.
Yeah.
And good horror television is even sparser. Again, not non-existent. You can find it.
Mm.
And finding stuff that actually kind of appeals to what I enjoy, to my entertainment sensibilities, is just really difficult.
I feel like there's less horror. We don't have to tangent into a long conversation about this, but my impulse is that there's less horror television content now than there was 20 to 30 years ago. Like when I grew up as a kid, between cable television, premium cable, and terrestrial networks, there was a fair amount of horror and horror anthology stuff on television that you could find.
You're talking like Friday the 13th, the series.
Yeah, there's
a pull.
Well, I was gonna say there was Tales from the Crypt. There was, I mean, The Twilight Zone technically is a horror show. There was The Hitchhiker that was on HBO.
The Hitchhiker. Yeah. Okay.
You know, there was the Nightmare on Elm Street show.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, X-Files is I would classify a lot of that as in the horror adjacent, if nothing else.
Yeah.
There was nothing like this, though.
It was as much horror as like Aliens is horror.
Yeah,
X-Files. But you're right, Jesse. There also wasn't a lot of let's throw gallons of guts at the screen.
Yeah, and just let's have fun. You know, there's not a lot of gonzo TV.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's an accurate statement.
Well, not American, at least. If you get Japanese TV, it's all over the place. But even my ability to deal with subtitles has limits. But yeah, so losing this one again, it just kind of it sucked a little bit because there was an audience for this show. The problem was Starz at the time was not doing great as a network. And a lot of people didn't have it, so a lot of the audience for this was, after the season, when they sell the streaming rights to Netflix, when Netflix buys it to stream, right? That's where a lot of people watched it, because everyone has Netflix. But if you're Starz and you're having to foot the bill for this, you don't really care that people watch it on Netflix. You care about people watching it on your cable channel.
Right.
And it just kind of wound up where there was a good audience for it, but this was also a very pirated show. So there is an audience for it. There's a lot of people that like the Evil Dead world And the two iterations of it, the more serious horror stuff and the more splatstick stuff, like those can coexist. And it sucked because there was an audience that ultimately, for a variety of reasons, wasn't able to kind of help perpetuate it. I do think that if there had been a hypothetical season 4, season 3 would have ended differently. I think Ruby still would have died, but the very ending would have been different.
Okay.
Just because if you're going into season 4, like, you keep the group together. I mean, again, we're not talking just about the ending quite yet, but you wouldn't have this kind of a paradigm shift going into a 4th season by and large.
Right.
I feel like you answered the question. Jesse, I'm going to shift over to you. This is your first watch. So it was my first watch and your first watch. I feel like you're more sympathetic to the show than I was. I lost my patience with it. You seem you seem in just your reactions like, no, I was good with this. Like, I was, when it was over, I wanted more.
Yeah, it's so funny that you talked about like losing it. Okay, you're halfway through the 3rd season. You're like, okay, I'm done. My wife all of a sudden became on board halfway through the 3rd season. Like, really? I could not get her to take, have a good time with this show up until all of a sudden, like, she just really got into it and was laughing and having a good time at some of the stupid stuff that was happening on screen. And she got into it. But yeah, as for myself, I absolutely loved and laughed. I don't think I've laughed so hard at a television series in a long time. Because it was not comedy either. Sometimes it would just be the amount of blood being sprayed onto somebody's face.
And just his poor daughter when he chainsaws Lee Majors, and she's right behind it and just
over her face.
The better one is at the end, I think, when she wood chips the phone demon.
Oh, I love that whole scene.
Because remember, if you remember when we talked about Evil Dead Rise. And at the end where the protagonist is caked in blood.
Oh yeah.
After putting the deadite through the I can't remember which machine.
That unholy amalgamation of things that goes into a wood chipper. Yeah, Brandy runs over the phone demon with a snowblower.
Right.
Yes.
And it's that same, like, this isn't just splattered. You are like literally like a cake. Slathered in very thick blood, and Brandy's reaction to it is, just a big old ungodly what the fuck.
Oh yeah.
Well, that whole sequence with her and the phone demon is full of so many callbacks to Evil Dead lore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just the look and feel of her, like you haven't truly gotten your like jump in the Evil Dead gang until you are that caked in blood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's also the casting of Brandy for a little bit in this series didn't quite work for me until she starts buying into the supernatural.
Yeah.
Like, once she realizes what's going on, you start to realize, oh, she got this job because she does a really good play on Bruce Campbell's Ash.
Yeah.
Like, once she gets into that side of it, suddenly every bit of her casting makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, I know Jesse and I just briefly, like, before we started recording, touched on her character, and he was like, "Oh, I wasn't a fan." Yeah, she's twatty in the beginning, but like you said, when she starts doing all the good Evil Dead stuff, that's when she's working.
Yeah,
that's when her character really comes alive. We both cut you off there, Jesse, but you said you laughed just the amount of blood that was happening on.
Oh yeah, the bloodletting, and of course the splat stick that was mentioned. That's just over the top, and I'm right there with Robert. Like, I do feel that there's a bit of a hole left, when this series went away. And I immediately was like, I've got to find out. Somebody had to have continued this in the comics, and it looks like they sort of did. I don't know if that's a direct, because it really acts like it picks up from the last instance of the original ending for the 3rd film. But regardless, it was billed and promoted like, hey, Starz fans, check out the continuation in the comics. So yeah, there was a hole there, and I felt like I had to fill it somehow. And usually, you at least find a comic sometimes. If it's a good show, it's going to pick it up. And of course, Ash and the Evil Dead have been in comics for quite a while. But yeah, man, I mean, this was again, it was a great time. I want to go back to Brandy real quick and just talk about how she was kind of like really annoying at the beginning, and I just didn't like the whole on the fence. Okay, who do I believe? Who do I not believe? I think that was my biggest criticism of the season. Really, yeah. And I know you like the father-daughter dynamics, and
I do, but I also think like I think her not trusting Ash played on the stuff from the second season about we all think you're a serial killing
Ashy Slashy.
Yeah, we all think you're Ashy Slashy, and for me, again, everything is pointing to he's a lunatic. Why wouldn't she believe it? Also, that seems to be the motif of this show of nobody believes Ash until it's well past too late.
And boy, does it get too late in this one.
Really?
Yeah. To Jesse's point, though, I think the problem with that beat is that it extends about an episode too long.
Okay.
There's because like the episode where she helps him, like after the which one was it? Hang on, I'm trying to remember. The episode before Ruby winds up being publicly revealed. So this is a little bit before Kelly dies. Like right after Pablo attacks them in the trailer, after he becomes evil for a little bit. The fact that after that she's still like on the fence about Ash, and we just extend that beat one segment too long for it to really kind of land. I do love, however, that part of Ash's pitch to her is when he's trying to explain what's going on, he said, "Yeah, I'm a lousy liar. I couldn't make this up if I tried."
Right. I think what Ash's charm is that he's dumb.
Yeah.
He is a tank. He is just he is all vice, all impulse, all lack of self-control. So he doesn't have the wherewithal or the manipulative ability to tell this kind of a lie this big.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible for him. He doesn't have, like his intelligence in his D&D character is like a 2.
No, hang on. I would actually argue that Ash's intelligence is okay. It's his wisdom that's rock stupid.
Okay.
As I was saying it, I was like maybe trade out wisdom for intelligence, but you get the drift.
Yeah, like there's a few of those stats that he has dumped for lots of charisma.
Yeah. No, his charisma's a 10.
20.
Oh, yeah.
20 is the cap, but yeah.
Okay. It's been a while since I played D&D. But either way,
there was a time when that was the max. Now it's 20, give or take.
Yeah, so his charisma and his strength are both like high. His intelligence and wisdom, mildly retarded. So he's not capable of like next level manipulation that you would for any of this to be nonsense.
Yeah. So I appreciate that that's part of his pitch, but ultimately I do agree with Jesse that the Brandy on the fence thing just goes one episode or so too long before they really kind of get together, because she drives him away from the cops, and that's the point at which her character finally comes to life.
Right.
Yeah, their interactions are actually pretty solid. If you watch her character throughout this season, you basically get Ash from Evil Dead through the end of Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
She takes that trip over the course of these this hour and 10 episodes, 30 minutes. So however long that, 5 hours, give or take.
I thought it was an interesting thing with Ash of, I'm an irresponsible cad who beds lots of easy women. Okay, well, you have a kid now. Okay, well, I'm going to be responsible and take care of that child as best I can. And fold that into, saving her and saving the greater world from evil.
It's actually kind of refreshing that he didn't run away from responsibility.
Yeah, which is a big theme of this season and the show overall.
Yeah.
Because he, I mean, I said this about Big Hero 6. If you missed it, the characters will just flat out tell you. And in here, it's like I have, he literally, like, short of grabbing the camera and speaking directly into it, says, I have to stop running away from all my fights.
Yeah. And that's an important thing. But, the writing of this character, and bless everyone involved for understanding how to take this character with that kind of a curveball being thrown their way and have him behave in a way that is quintessentially still Ash Williams, but also not be a complete bag of dirt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Like
I think one of the strengths of the writing is they understand. I'm going to bring this up because I think it's worth talking about in terms of this has now become a lost art. The writing of a hero.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot on JMU Hollywood, that a lot of times the heroes are like modern heroes are undone by the women in the feature, or they're undone by circumstance, or they're made to be crippled and having to be saved by women, yada yada yada. And we complain incessantly that modern Hollywood writing does not know how to write a hero that not even just men, but a general audience will cheer and want to see win in the end. And here's a really great example of a well-written archetype. Ash is in many ways a very well-written, solid fantasy hero. And you can't then go and make him terrible. You'll undo all the good work you did.
Yeah. And a lot of modern writers would try to do that. And that's not lest that come across as overly political sentiment. That's a skill issue more than anything else. It's just,
I think it's also like self-inserts and projection. But
we don't
have an hour to get into all that.
We don't. But Bruce Campbell also just generally being very protective of this character,
Mm-hmm.
and having just such a wonderful handle on him, and being able to potentially advocate for, like, no, this isn't how he'd react. Like, he's never going to turn into a paragon. He's not supposed to be.
Right.
But threading the needle between the kind of guy you want to see lose and the kind of guy you root for, even though he's kind of an idiot.
Well, he does, I think, tap into sort of middle age fantasy projection, power fantasy. Like, we're all, to one degree or another, middle-aged guys here. Who wouldn't want to be Ash? A chainsaw wielding, evil defeating, sex machine. Like,
there's not to be the odd man out, just to be the odd man out, but
I understand some of that will not personally go with it, Robert. You know what I'm saying. There's a bit of he taps into a bit of power fantasy for middle-aged men, because I don't think necessarily a kid looks at Ash and goes, "That's what I want to be." Maybe so.
Come on, you're okay. I don't mean to push a potential button here.
Yeah, no, okay, you're good.
You can't tell me your son wouldn't cheer for Ash.
You cut me off, but yeah, that's where I was going with that. Like, my son, maybe I would want to be that at his age. I don't want to be that now. I'm 10 and have a future. But should I ever be in my 40s, I would like to be the 40-year-old chainsaw wielding sex machine. So
sure.
So
right.
It's weird because this iteration of Ash, once you get to like End of Evil Dead 2 and beyond, is very much the kind of character that 10-year-olds like.
Yeah.
It's and then anyone in their 20s looks at him and goes, "No." By the time you get by the time you get to the back end of 30 to 40, you look at that and go, "You know what? Why not? Let's just indulge."
Ash Williams for president. I mean,
you know what?
There's definitely worse out there. Ahem. Anyway, let's focus in.
He would have been the most qualified candidate of the three if he was in the last one.
Okay. So, Ashy Slashy for president.
Got my vote.
We're slashing federal laws.
He slashes the budget. He slashes our enemies. And he still manages to have less sex in the White House than JFK.
Already.
Come on, campaign slogans, people. Let's get to work on this.
I want to start to wrap on this because I want to talk about Pablo and Kelly, and then we have to talk about that ending. But I like we've touched on a couple of different beats. I kind of want to hit the broader strokes with this. I like the fact that Ash and Brandy, you know, their relationship develops over time, and by the end of it, I'm very attuned, and Jesse, I think you can weigh on this too. I'm very attuned to the father-daughter dynamic, because fathers and daughters are slightly different than fathers and sons, the way that they interact with each other.
Oh, how dare you insinuate that boys and girls are different, Mark?
I know. In the year of our Lord 2024, what has come over me? But I'm gonna talk about this by bringing up something personal that happened, and I'm not gonna do an hour-long tangent, but indulge me. I was recently at an event with my daughter, and there was an issue. I got annoyed. I walked away from the parties involved and my daughter and just walked ahead of everybody. And my daughter ran after me and was like, "Father, where are you going?" She calls me father. And she said to me, "When I am home, I retreat to my room because my room is my space. By home, I mean her mother's home. I retreat to my safe space. That's where I feel safe. That's where I can decompress. That's where I can get away from the world. When I'm at your place, you are my safe space. I don't need to go anywhere." And I think one of the roles a father plays, and I mean, you're the protector of your family in general, but I think even more so with your daughters, of being that strong mentor, protector figure for your daughter. There's books upon books upon books, just years of research utterly neglected and completely just completely thrown out the window. But a lack of a strong father figure in the life of a young girl is way detrimental. There's oodles of research to back me up on that. So to hear my daughter say, "You're my safe space," I was like, well, thank God I'm doing something right in my life.
Right.
And that comes out, to bring this back to Ash versus Evil Dead, that comes out in the relationship between Brandy and Ash. They bond. The thing that bonds them is the fact that Ash is protecting her. And she's in this very weird space, able to kind of blossom and become a strong figure in her own right, which is how you parent. You protect them so that they have space to grow and be independent on their own. Back me up here, Jesse. So what do you think of all that? What I'm saying, your reactions, what's going on with you?
Well, I've been, this is what a weird show to actually start discussing, like parental and children and their dynamic with each other, because not only do you have Ash and his daughter Brandy, this girl he just met, he had no idea he has a teenage daughter. Thank goodness he didn't have to deal with them when they were little kids. But
when they were pooping today.
That's right. But you also have to think about Ash and his father, and their dynamic too, and what he has there, and how bad that was, and how Ash doesn't fall in to what his father was like. He's trying. He's definitely reaching it. Yeah. Well, granted, his dad did, blame him, and I guess some people, but there was definitely, they weren't on the best of terms. We'll just put it that way.
Well,
so
I mean, when
Ash,
I say benign neglect, I'm talking even before the camping trip to hell. Ash talks about how his father wasn't there for him even growing up, and that there was conflict, and Ash's father kind of parented from an island, and it was either be on the island with me or fuck off.
Right.
And Ash fucked off.
He learns from that and decides that, he's not going to follow in his father's footsteps. So, and yeah, it's great for, as far as his daughter and their relationship, as short as it is throughout these 10 episodes, he's able to, just like you said, they're able to create a bond and a father-daughter bond to where by was it the second to last episode, or maybe it was the last episode, where they're finishing each other's sentences or jokes, and Pablo looks at Kelly and says, "Yeah, there's two of them now." So
that might be my favorite line of the entire season.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great to kind of see that. And boy, I wasn't expecting that bit of knowledge to come through in a show where it's just gallons and gallons of blood thrown at everybody. But yeah, I mean, I feel you, man. It's kind of good to be able to actually, you're being a parent, you're being a father, you're able to make your kid feel safe in some way, and try to help them out. And my gosh, in that universe,
I was gonna say, if you're making your child feel safe while there's zombies running around,
right.
Parent of the century.
You win, Ash. Another victory, sir. You are the hero.
Achievement unlocked, Super Dad.
You are the hero.
Robert, you want to weigh in here? If not, we can move on to something else.
You two are fathers of daughters. I am not anything. I do think, though, that one of the nice things about this show, about this season, it was able to kind of help push Ash along that path, in no small part thanks to the episode where he gets closure with Lee Majors. The episode where we get one of my favorite, because I had forgotten about the gag where they go into Brock's memory, and then Brock is able to walk through walls and whatnot because he's a ghost, and then Ash tries to replicate it and just face plants into a door.
Yes.
Which, it caught me off guard, and that's why I laughed at it. But letting those two kind of have their moment of having their moments together during that scene, it helped a lot, because if Ash just goes from, kind of making up with his dad to his dad dies to killing Deadite version of his dad, bringing back Lee Majors to do the role, if he's going to be the Deadite version, you do need to pay that off on the happy end as well. Like, that's not one that could end on a downer and still be satisfying.
Right.
So that was fairly smart as far as the structure went. And then I think you wanted to talk a little bit about Pablo and Kelly. And
yeah, let's get into Pablo and Kelly. So Kelly's arc this season is she attempts to go it alone. She gets killed. There's a mini subplot about getting the entity that's currently occupying her body out of her body, so that her body can be present for her to return from the dead dimension or whatever the fuck she is. Which they do accomplish, and her reaction to her cold dead face is hilarious. But,
yes, it is. It looked like Keith Richards.
But she has this.
I was thinking Iggy Pop.
She has this tacit recognition that I can't. I am the hand of Ash. I'm not meant to be leading this pack, and then that kind of pays off at the end when Ash goes to fight the Mega Demon or whatever the fuck it's called. The Zord.
It's Kandar, the Destroyer.
Sure. I want to now think of it as a Zord from Power Rangers or whatever they used to call the beings from Voltron.
Okay.
So, Kandar the Destroyer, is that the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kandar the Destroyer. I'll be good. So he's saying, he was just like, no, Kelly, even though things didn't quite work out the way you wanted them to, I am ready to pass this mantle on to you. You are ready. And she, and so they have that moment together, and it's nice. I think the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I like Kelly's arc. I like Kelly's storyline. I think the actress is fucking great. She's the other highlight to me of this season. She gets a lot of really funny lines at the end where she's just losing her fucking mind and shooting machine guns.
Oh yeah.
That's good shit. I would like to see her in other stuff. I would like to see her stretch more as an actress. I think she's really talented. But they've been teasing a will they, won't they? Oh, that's by Pablo. They kind of toyed around with him being, sort of an asexual best buddy to her. And then they were like, nope, we're fully hetero paying this off. And they in the will they, won't they moment, they finally kiss. And I'll tell you, it was the most satisfactory conclusion of all the conclusions of this show. Pablo and Kelly finally kissed, and I'm not a romantic. In fact, I'm discovering I'm quite aromantic. Sorry, ladies, but but that one got me. I was like, these two have been, pinching and kicking at each other for 3 seasons now, and finally the writers were like, "Here's a satisfying romantic ending, you lucky so and so's. Now fuck off." And I was like, I will. So I enjoyed all of that. Robert, you look like you're chomping at the bit here to talk some Kelly and Pablo.
I'm kind of with you. It was smart of them not to lean too hard into the Knights of Samaria, Dalton in particular, being like a foil for Pablo.
Mhm.
Yeah, they didn't. They almost didn't at all. He's gone in that like 2 episodes.
Yeah, it was wise of them to not try to spend too much time on a romantic subplot. Like the chemistry and the tension between Pablo and Kelly is good enough on its own. It didn't really need that element. So
Right.
for them to wisely sidestep the landmine, thumbs up. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice to see those two. It was nice to see that payoff. It was nice to see Pablo go from where he starts in this whole in the whole 3 seasons as a very not there to do much other than to gas up Ash,
Mhm.
to the guy who looks best with his shirt off out of the whole cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Sexy Pablo.
Yeah, to take that character, both the writing and the actor, to take him from the beginning to the end when he's happily able to kind of walk around evil because of what his abilities allow him to do. Like, again, big thumbs up for that. Okay, character arcs. They used to be a thing.
Yeah.
He really comes into his own as a warrior in his own right, as the mage of the group.
Well, there's a reason that Ash says to Kelly, like, you're the one who's gonna be like the loud voice. You're gonna be able to rally the people. And he tells Pablo, you're the jefe. Like, you get to. There's a lot of my job about fighting evil that's gonna be yours now because you have the powers. This falls on you. And that I know we're not going to talk too much about the ending just yet, but that's actually kind of a really touching moment between them right there. Before they all drive off.
When we opened this season, the one person I was wondering about was like, what is Kelly doing? And you're right, character arcs or something else, because she has become she's a badass. She was kind of getting into her own there in the season 2 as well, but I mean, she's running around with this Knight of Sumeria and she's like beating the crap out of people at a bar. And I was like, wow, she is definitely she's taking charge.
Yeah.
And Pablo, yeah, just like you said, he's the guy that seemed like he was always around, and he didn't want to let on that he really liked Kelly, but he was, and then he'd kind of pull back a little bit. And then this season, you could tell things bothered him. The fact that, Dalton was around, and you always wanted these two to kind of get together. So it was wonderful that it paid off. Both of them at the time when they finally do kiss, I mean, they're completely different people than they were in the beginning of this show. It's
an earned kiss. Another thing in Hollywood that I don't think a lot of talents in Hollywood really understand is that, it's the kind of thing the pitch meeting guy. God, I fucking massacred that pitch meeting thing last night, Jesse.
It got edited out on my podcast, but not on the live one.
I think I was trying to say barely an inconvenience, and I bumblefucked all the way through it.
Yes, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, and I'm like mildly retarded, barely a sandwich. I'm like, what the fuck did I just say? Like I had a stroke. The
man.
guy talks about like, well, why is the man and the woman in this movie kissing? Because they're the male and female leads.
Because they're attractive.
Yeah, right. Why are these two characters getting together? Because she's the only girl in the movie, and that's lazy, that's poor, that's shallow. the reason why this works is because we've been leading up to it, but there was the possibility we were gonna Pacific Rim this, and they weren't.
Well, very just kind of to that point, because you mentioned this is earned. You do have to be willing to pull the trigger, and I mean, you and I
have
think
to give James Storm the title.
Yeah, that did not work out for anybody, but
well, not when they did it. That's the point I'm making.
Even then, it wouldn't have helped. But that's
right.
TNA's issues are their own. We could spend hours talking about that.
My point is, when you set it up and you bring everybody right to the point of climax, if you don't finish, everyone gets blue balls.
Well, but to the point again, trying to figure out what kind of relationship is in play, because I mean, you and I both, when we reviewed Pacific Rim, said we're glad they didn't kiss because that wasn't the relationship they had.
Right.
That is the relationship these two had, and getting that right, again, you then have to be willing to pull the trigger. I mean, you and I both, when we complained about the ending of Twisters, like there should have been a kiss there.
Right.
But
yeah, that's a blue ball situation.
They weren't willing to. So the writers weren't willing to pull the trigger for whatever reason.
That up the entire movie, and then they don't. And then they don't do it. He just carries her bags out for her. I think one of the bags had his penis in it. It was ridiculous.
Here's your bags. Here's my bag.
They shot a version of that ending with the kiss, and then somebody just said, "Why does she? Why do we need this?" And they kind of browbeat the creatives into fine. We'll cave to social pressure.
Right. And that executive is currently shaving her head and swearing off men for the next 4 years. But I digress.
Well, I mean, she's also like on the street, hopefully, because. Bad calls, man. You should be punished for those in the professional world.
Yes, you should be punished for being bad at your job. Anyway,
who would have thought?
Anything else about the Pablo and Kelly stuff?
Just that we got some decent. There's some funny stuff that comes out of it. I mean, the scene where Pablo attacks the trailer is.
Oh yeah. Right.
Definitely a highlight, and then when his face appears on her calf, like just his mouth and his nose, and that part is like talking and just being awful. But
that is it's so absurd. Like she starts to figure out, like if she starts putting stuff down into her leg, it affects the deadite outside. So she starts pouring stuff down into the. And
that's great.
That's good stuff.
Her fight with Ruby, I actually wanted to commend again the showrunners for having the guts to kill the character, because that when she died, like my first time watching this, like she gets stabbed and she dies. I'm like, that's odd because that's a main character. So I know how are you going to keep the actress around? Because I know she hasn't been given the axe. And then the answer to that is, well, we'll have this other entity possess her body. At which point, somewhere in my head is, she's actually gone, like that, because this is the kind of show that would do that,
right?
And they do jump through hoops to get her back, but it's believable enough hoops, for this world.
That is one of my complaints, and
I'm not. I was going to say Mark was complaining about this last night.
I'm not looking for agreement. I'm not also looking for debate. This is a personal, subjective criticism of this. I'm fine standing alone on the island. My son's complaint about the Marvel movies, that there's no stakes because everybody that dies can come back to life and there's no challenge here, there's no hurdle, death is meaningless, is where about I got to with this show. They kill people off, and then we spend a lot of screen time with them dead, but they're doing stuff as dead entities. And it was all 3 seasons, and it was ongoing. And by this point, I'd grown tired of it. So the deaths aren't effective for me. When they killed Kelly, I was like, okay. And oh look, there she is again. She's talking from beyond the grave. And and while it was nice to see her, the actress, still bumming around as this other character, they still brought Kelly back. They killed Brandy too. Brandy should have had a much more significant impact on me than it did. But I'm like, there's no fucking way they really killed her. Fuck that shit.
Everybody died. I mean, really, because
Pablo
dies.
Ash died.
Ash dies this season, and everybody ended up. It is the Brujo Especial, though, Mark. Okay, you need to understand.
It's a writing for me. It's a writing thing. When you do it too much, it loses its effectiveness. It becomes the Panama Sunrise or the Canadian
Tequila
Destroyer.
Sunrise?
the Canadian destroyer of writing.
Oh, this is a wrestling reference.
This is supposed to be an effective thing that's supposed to produce a large reaction, and you're treating it like a common thing that has no reaction, in my personal opinion.
No, I don't think that's wholly unfair. I was more inclined to think that Kelly was actually gone because the conditions under which they were able to get Pablo back were not present.
Mm-hmm.
Once they reveal, like, oh, there's a portal to the Deadland, like once it becomes clear, like, okay, there's interaction with some version of the other side at play, that changes the equation. I'm kind of with you as far as Brandy's death. Like, that was kind of I'm with you. Like, that happened, and you spend a minute going, oh, and then you're like, no.
Like, if I had watched it live when it originally aired, my reaction at the end of it would have been, oh no, how will she come back next week?
Yeah.
Not, oh no, she's dead. How are they going to deal with this?
Yeah. So I'm with you as far as that. That's not the best thing that this particular season does, but at the same time, I was willing to take the ride a little bit by the time we get to, this is a portal to the other side, and we get to spend a little bit of time, near hell, and there's some fun stuff that takes place in that dimension, including one of my favorite sight gags, because Bruce Campbell walks up on the classic. This is the car from all the Sam Raimi movies.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, oh my God, they killed the classic. Which is I may be mistaken about this, but I think that's a reference to Drag Me to Hell, where the car gets pulled in.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie. I know the car's in the movie because it's a Sam Raimi movie, but so we do spend some fun time in the Deadlands. That's not the worst use of screen time this movie has, or this show rather. But yeah, it was nice to see the characters again, Kelly and Pablo, kind of come full circle, get to where they're gonna get to the end point for their characters. And had there been a hypothetical fourth season, there's ways you can still play with their character dynamic going forward. But one of the nice things about this show, I wouldn't be worried about them regressing it. Like, we wouldn't pick up and suddenly they're back to where they were 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The show is not so poor that we're having to wholly reinvent the entire arc we just went on every season, like some other shows.
Like so many other shows.
Oh my God. All right. We're almost at an hour here, so let's get into the conclusion of this. This ends much like Ghostbusters, where they call on the giant destroyer, and that shows up, and Ash fights it. And he tells everyone, run for cover, run for safety. It's me and the Dark One's destroyer now. And he takes it on with he puts like the Kandarian dagger, I think, in one of the in one of the shells, and
for a tank. He drives a tank.
Yeah.
And he gets to fight this thing with a tank. He takes it out, but he also gets knocked unconscious. The screen goes black, and we wake up in the future where he comes out of his cryo sleep. It's from near as I could tell. And there's a cyborg of sorts. He has a Luke Skywalker hand. And she was like, all right, it's time to fight evil. And they get inside a car that is Mad Maxed up to be a tank of sorts. And they drive out into the wastelands to fight evil. And that's where this ends. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and say, go ahead and convince me, Robert. This is a good, satisfying conclusion that ties up all the loose ends and brings us, full circle to where we want to be at the end of this 3-season journey. Because I'm going to tell you, when it was over, I was like, oh my God, stupidest thing I've ever seen.
Oh,
why did we do this? I'm unsatisfied. I'd like
get out of here. Get out of town.
Wait, you stop booing me. Don't heckle me. Sir.
Okay, couple of things. One, first of all, this is a different point, but I wanted to make it before I forget about it. The use of end credits music in this particular season is actually quite strong. Which ones we end on to set up what's coming next is pretty darn good. And the penultimate episode ending with I'm Only Human as the Kandarian demon is set loose upon the world, and there's Ash going, what in the world do I do?
Right.
Two things make this kind of work for me. One is that we actually do get Ash's breakdown at the beginning of the last episode.
Right.
When he goes home, sits down to get drunk and goes, what do you want me to do, man? I didn't want any of this. I didn't ask for any of this. To be me, to have everyone around you that you love get hurt and die, and to be covered in blood all the time. And
it was a very meta commentary on this entire franchise, and I loved every second of that.
And then his daughter brings him out of it, and
Which is also
thankfully,
good. Yeah, which is her speech to him is fantastic. It caps off the best stuff of the season.
yeah. And so why this ending works for me is, and some of this you will not find satisfactory. So let me just preface that. But we actually get the emotional conclusion to everyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone apart from Ash, we get their conclusion. Kelly and Pablo kind of get together. Kelly is now ready to be kind of a public figure and a leader. Because she's made terrible mistakes and has realized, no one is an island. There's no such thing as a one-man army. Pablo has come into his own as the wielder of magic. And Brandy has made peace with the insanity of the world. She's accepted that she's a Williams. She's had her moment of going crazy in the shed, much like Ash did in the shed in the first in Evil Dead 2. And Ash is finally ready to look at these people whose lives he has bettered, and he finally gets to save them. This is one of the big things about Ash. He says it himself. Everyone he tries to help, he fails. It doesn't really matter who. Look at all the people in the first season that died.
Right.
Look at all the people in the second season that died, including his dad. Like, this guy's life is a lot more tragic than you would be led to believe if all you look at is the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to finally be able to look at this and go, even if I die, which he doesn't, but even if, I get to win this time. That's his conclusion, emotionally, in a lot of respects. About the waking up in the future, this is a bit that it's a little bit lore heavy. So this is why I don't think you'll find it satisfying. But
that's probably exactly why. But please continue.
But this is, again, this is Ash. So this is same guy from The Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness, right? He's the prophesied one, and in this case, it specifically states that he is prophesied to fight evil in the past, present, and future. We've seen him do it in the present a lot. We've seen him do it in the past. He got sucked into medieval Europe and fought off the Army of Darkness. And this is basically them getting to where Army of Darkness was originally supposed to end, which is Ash taking too much of the sleeping potion and waking up in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Okay.
It's not quite that bad for him this time around. But in all seriousness about this character, he's always going to fight evil. It's what he does. It's kind of the only thing he's good at. So for him to get to save the people he loves, stop the big evil monster, wake up in the future, and drive off in a glorious tank with a hot robot babe to fight evil in the future, as he was always supposed to do, like that's about as good as that character's ending is going to get.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You sold me on it's an appropriate ending to this show because it does, in fact, because I forgot all that stuff you said. It caps off and ties up all the loose ends that it should. I think you're right. I think because for me, I don't remember half of this stuff. It's been decades since I fucking saw Army of Darkness.
Right.
So I think I was more focused on what happened to Pablo, what happened to Kelly, what happened to Randy, what happened to this wire. And I think it was more of he defeated the demon as near as I could tell. Why are we in a post-apocalyptic wasteland? Like,
Because,
why did he wake up in the Injustice future?
okay, because they stopped Kandar, the Dark Ones are still out there. The Dark Ones did get through into our reality again. And they're actually more dangerous, and they're not the ones he stopped.
Okay.
Like, they wake up Kandar, and then they piss off to continue wrecking the world.
Okay, so I believe you. Here's my craft. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna throw it to Jesse, who's just like, do I ever get to talk on this podcast? Yes, you do, Jesse. I promise.
Oh, I'm fine.
No, Jesse, you can't be a podcast voyeur. You have to participate.
Damn it.
I just like to sit and watch. No, you have to talk. You're not wrong when you say like all the emotional stuff was already capped off. This was almost like a bonus scene, and it's like, oh, look, for all you fans out there, here's the ending. Here's what you've been waiting for. Ash fights evil in the future. I think my problem here is that because I don't feel like it wrapped up the story of the series very well. What I mean by that is there was a particular story they were telling, and then it's kind of like Suno when it makes a song when it doesn't know when to stop, and it just kind of goes into another song and then cuts it off halfway through. Facts can confirm. The story ended with him fighting Kandar, the Destroyer, and then what we should have gotten is it would have been nice to. I think it would have been nice to have seen everybody like going on without Ash, and then the credits, and then in a post-credit scene, you get what you get. It's kind of here's a teaser for some things we might do in the future. Here's some fun stuff for the fans. But the real ending of this is, and everyone lived happily ever after, and Ash is remembered as a legend. And we don't really get that. It's like the ending of the show forgot it had other characters in it and only focused on Ash and the lore. That's what makes it unsatisfying for me, if you understand my meaning. Jesse, you're nodding your head there. I know it had time travel in it, so it automatically gets passed by you. But what else did you like about the
there
ending?
wasn't really. I mean, there was time travel in Army of Darkness, but he just went to sleep here and woke
makes
up
it
later.
like your second favorite movie, right? It's like Back to the Future and Army of Darkness, right?
It's up there.
Okay. All your favorite movies are time travel movies, correct?
Most of them.
Most of them.
Just
want to make sure the audience knows that
you're not wrong.
You have no discernible taste.
Yeah, that's right. So, first off, if it would have ended on everybody lives happily ever after, it wouldn't have been any way resemblance of some type of Ashley J. Williams versus Evil Dead. Okay, you're just not going to get that.
Okay, Tom King.
You're just not going to.
I appreciate your rebuttal, but he's not wrong. Like, there is a tone to this series that you do have to maintain.
You're right. He's not wrong. And I'm being snarky. Please continue.
Well, and I can see, though, I would have loved to have seen kind of like, a little bit of an epilogue. Like, they continue the fight.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to end happily ever after, but it's more like, okay, well, there's more strife, and now they don't have Ash there to help them, but they're doing the best that they can. Okay, I'm all right with that.
Evil One is my problem.
Okay.
I don't necessarily like the fact that evil wins in the end. The very fact that we're acknowledging, as Robert said, the Dark Ones are still out there, and that's why America became America. But that's why Earth becomes the hellscape that he's still fighting Mad Max style. That's okay. I guess one way to look at it is, well, the story continues. Oz doesn't shut down. Baltimore continues. Everything just keeps going. Okay. On the other hand, this is such a fantastical tale. I kind of wanted there to be a very conclusive end to it.
I hear you.
Defeat evil. Be done with this.
No, not happening. Not here. It just isn't going to happen. And yes, of course, I was a big fan of how they ended this, and knew that it was kind of like at the end of Army of Darkness, what the original ending was there, to see him kind of fight, being the fighter in the future. I was excited for that. And I'm kind of like, okay, hey, this is kind of like what they wanted to do originally by sending him off in the future, because you didn't get that with the theatrical release of Army of Darkness. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand why you would be upset. For me, it was like, okay, this is perfect. I'm okay with how they're doing things. At some point, we're gonna, maybe we'll get a flashback to Kelly and Pablo, and that's why, like I said, I immediately went to the comics because I wanted to see what could potentially happen. And I'm really hoping, because this the one that I'm reading, which is going to be called Army of Darkness Forever, I think is what it's titled. I'm hoping they get back to these characters, because I really did love this, the characters in this series. I want more of them. So again, sad that it had to end, but I wasn't unhappy with the ending.
Robert, I'll give you the last word here on this topic in general, and then we'll go to final thoughts.
Again, I enjoyed it. This was kind of what I expected out of, like, okay, the show's going to end, but there's something bizarrely comforting about Ash still being out there fighting evil.
Okay. I'll accept that.
I don't hate your idea of, like, getting little snippets, like maybe a loose montage of Kelly and Pablo and Brandy continuing the fight.
Sets it down in a hole.
Well, no, that wouldn't be the song I would choose for that. No.
Joking.
But, Ash still being out there again, still fighting is, it's what makes him who he is. And
Yeah.
I'm perfectly okay with the last time I see Bruce Campbell acting as Ash Williams. He's feeling groovy. He's got a hot badass robot babe on the turret in his car as he drives off into the wasteland to fight evil. Like, I am more than okay with that being where we stop following Ash's story.
Okay. I'm not unhappy we did this. I'm sorry it took me 12 years, but the schedule is what it is. But when Jesse and I made the sort of tacit decision to do old television shows, I didn't necessarily say, like, we're only going to do, like, peak TV, we're only going to do prestige television, but I definitely didn't think we were going to do something like this. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we did it. It generated some really good conversation. Obviously, this had a bigger fan base than I thought it did. This had some of our higher numbers for this sort of review on this.
We're
network.
very grateful y'all watching, listening.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Who knew? I tapped into it. I tapped into an accidental oil field. Cool. But in general, while Ash vs. Evil Dead is not necessarily my particular cup of brandy, no pun intended, I enjoyed the show for the most part. The splatstick stuff gets old to me, but that's a very me thing. There's other stuff.
Oh, come on. I fully expected you to have had I need to ask this, because you said you had a visceral reaction to a few of the things from season 2.
Yeah.
So the sperm bank scene had to
Yeah.
That's gross.
Was there? Yes, you said you're glad you did this, and I remember, kind of needling you for the weak stomach that you have for some things. So, was there anything that made you gag on season 3?
No, and I remember Robert was saying last episode that the last review that we did, that there's stuff in season 3 that's even grosser than season 2. I'm not going to say I watched this with the keen eagle eye, but I missed whatever it was, because I didn't see anything that was anything grosser than I saw in season 2.
Okay,
All right.
grosser. I mean, I've got my
we have
10 moments here.
I mean, you know what, Jesse, do your 10 moments here, because I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't paying as close attention to this maybe as I should have. So regale me with your
my
tales.
All right.
The top 10 whatever moments.
My favorite moments.
Your
from
favorite
each
moments.
episode.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Episode 1. The harp to the face. What's her face?
That's a good one.
I can't remember her. Okay, where Ash basically jumps on a harp and it splits this girl's face just completely in like 5 different places.
It was very cartoonish.
Yes,
it was funny.
It was gross.
That's one of the keys to this series. It's about this close from being an actual cartoon.
Yeah.
Right.
I was waiting for someone to get hit with a piano and then smile and see piano keys.
That'd been perfect. Episode 2 was, my note on that was, oh no, the sperm bank. So, which is completely filled with nothing but ashes.
Not exclusively, but he made a lot of deposits.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And they even revisit it. Like I think they're going through when they're in the rift. Like he's walking the rest of the team through the sperm bank because weird things, as far as locations go. He's like, "Hey, be careful. It's going to be a little slippery." Too funny. Episode 3. I would play it right now, but I don't want to get copyright struck. Kids. All right. Kids by Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless at the end of that episode, which I don't know if you guys caught it. There is a song that's played where it's Bruce Campbell and Lucy Lawless singing a song called Kids, and it's hilarious. Okay. Episode 4. Okay. This is one of those ones where it's just so subtle, but hilarious. So Ash is trying to rescue the Scandinavian woman from the evil baby. Okay. And he's trying, she's like, "No, be quiet. Shh, you gotta be quiet." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he realizes she's handcuffed to the sink. And so he mimics, or he's trying to tell her that he's about to start the chainsaw. He grabs his, he gets his chainsaw up. He's like, "Okay, he's going to start this chainsaw up." Like, so he does it real quietly. Like he doesn't want to wake the baby, that he's telling her that he's going to start the chainsaw up, which is hilarious. And she's like, "No, don't do that." He doesn't do that, of course. So that's good. Episode 5, Kelly and Pablo kiss. All right, perfect.
We do need to backtrack just a hair to episode 4 and the baby meat puppeting through the.
What did I not put that down here?
Is that another?
That's episode 5.
You wanted my gross visceral reaction to something when he's sawing off when cloned Ash, evil clone Ash, is sawing off his thing. He's going, "It hurts, it hurts." Like, you don't really see anything. You see him sawing and you see the blood coming up, but it's not like you see like tendons and shit. Him like half crying, going, "Mommy, it hurts." That bothered me. Like, I was like, "Oh, that, ouch."
I think it is episode 5. Episode 5 is where the demon baby overtakes the body of the Scandinavian woman, and it is so over the top where he crawls. Tell me, Mark, you saw this. Did you see? You had to have seen it, because this is what you were talking about last season, right? Or last show, Winfree, when you were like, "Oh my gosh, there's another over the top moment."
There's a few. This one came to mind.
This one is it. It had to have been, because I'm sitting there watching this baby crawl up between the legs of the Scandinavian woman and then take over her body, and then his head pop out the top. And we have a full-on fight between Ash and this headless woman.
I'm going to tell you, I did not pay attention.
Oh my gosh. You have
go back
to
and
watch
rewatch. You have to go watch just that sequence again, Mark.
Dude. I mean, I could not believe, like,
I'm going to tell you, I this point, I think I was over the gross and the slapstick and the splatstick.
You need at least watch that, because it was okay. We had the last season, we had the rectum taken care, he's fighting in the morgue, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was hilarious. This takes that just and throws it in. So anyway, that was hilarious. That whole fight. So there you go. And then as we move forward here, episode 6, there was a bit of camera work where Ruby gets shot in the head, and then the camera like goes through her head, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, she backs up towards the camera, and the camera goes through the bullet hole that goes like through the back of her head and out one eye.
Oh, that's awesome. That was great stuff. Episode 7, where we had the old double Ash problem again. Yeah, this feels like we've got, and then we have this. I think that was the episode where it all took place at the high school. Ashy Slashy shows up.
I can't tell you how funny it was watching Bruce Campbell be evil Ash again. Like that, he always has such a ball with that. The fact that he walks up on 2 kids outside of the dance getting high on a cigarette that he left laying around, on a joint that he left around. And then it's evil Ash, so they look at them and go, "I'm not high enough to look at Ashy Slashy on prom night approaching me in the and he gets some of the worst one-liners, and I mean that in the best way.
Yeah.
We have a comment here on YouTube. Melted Copper. I found the Evil Dead show long after it was canceled, and I binge watched all of it. It was so awesome. Yeah, I am apparently the odd man out. But everyone adores this show, and I'm happy it brings them that much joy. That's all.
If this kind of thing is up your alley, this show is very much what you want out of it.
Yeah, it scratches that itch.
Peak TV of this genre.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much, yeah. Hard for us to find others.
Episode 8, the Deadite gets the paint mixer to the skull, which that was
a good one.
That was inventive.
Episode 9, Pablo getting a good kill like that. That was nice.
Right.
I think he got a one-liner, didn't he? In that he got a pun.
Oh, I think he did. I can't remember what it was. Episode 9, we talked about Brandy versus the phone versus mommy phone or whatever that was. That was great. And then episode 10.
Wow.
I mean, episode 10, like the budget just went insane because we've got to get all of these special effects going and everything. And the one thing that stood out to me was a Deadite with the gun, which was hilarious. Like the Deadite could not, for life of me, had horrible trigger discipline and was like shooting all over the place and like shaking its body to try and shoot. And that's the only thing that stuck out to me. But
that was a funny bit, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's my top 10. Mark Radulich. You have to go back and watch the scene in season 5. My gosh.
I also have to watch the scene that I missed because I was in the bathroom during I Saw the TV Glow that traumatized my son. So I'll spend some time looking at clips I don't want to watch. Speaking of a clip I don't want to watch, Robert, I'm going to give you the final word here. Jesse got to give his top 10. I got to give my summation of the show. This is your baby. Kill it.
Okay. Which half do you want then? I'll play King Solomon for you.
Sure.
It was not unpleasant for me to go back and revisit this for the sake of this review. It'd been a bit since I've watched the show. You mentioned it, man. If this is your genre, it doesn't get much better than this. It really doesn't. So if you like the gross out, if you like the humor, if you like again the splat stick Evil Dead vibe, you will have nothing but a good time watching this show, pretty much from start to finish. There's issues, this is far from perfect television, but it's generally a good time. So if you think you'd like it, give it a shot. If you have seen it, but it's been a while, it's never bad to go back and revisit. I think the other thing about this show, you can binge it. You can also watch it intermittently and still just kind of keep up very easily because the episodes are short. And it's not like there's an intricate plot going on here.
Yeah. All right, folks, that is our review of Ash vs. Evil Dead. This Thursday, Mick Wanamaker is going to lead the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox in a review celebrating, I think it's the 25th anniversary of the self-titled Slipknot album, Slipknot. It's good old Wait and Bleed, one of my favorite Slipknot songs. So she'll be with myself and Jesse. Jesse, are we gonna do any more clowncore? Can I tell you that is my favorite clip. Like I cut clips of my shows all the time, and I'll go back and I'll rewatch them, especially if I'm at work and I'm doing notes. But as I was telling you, like I'll go back and listen to certain source materials because I need the feels, I need the emotion that I get from listening to us during the good days, talking about stuff and laughing and torturing Ronnie. My newest version of that is the clowncore clip.
Oh my gosh.
I laugh every single time, and when the guy pulls his dick out, I'm always looking at your face. Your face. I'm gonna clip that and put it on a fucking t-shirt and sell it.
I have no idea.
Send one to Jesse.
Oh my gosh!
And on the back, Robert Cooper. I knew he was gonna use his dong. So good. So yes. So if you'd like more of that sort of thing. We'll be on the Metal Hammer of Doom Jukebox this Thursday talking Slipknot. Next week, Damn You Hollywood is actually back from like a 2-week hiatus. We'll be talking Red 1, and then we'll be doing an on trial for Gladiator, allegedly that's going to be Pat Mullen and Dorian Price. We'll see if any of them actually show up. So, yeah. What
Do
happened?
you? Okay, hang on. Minor question.
Yes.
Do you need a backup for that?
I mean, if you want to be backup and you want to talk Gladiator, I'd be happy to have you.
Do you need a prosecutor or a defense attorney?
At this point, as long as I have a body, I'll call it in the ring, brother.
Okay. That's Tuesday?
That is a week from Thursday, the 21st.
Thursday. Week from Thursday.
The 21st of November. All right, well,
yeah, I will probably same usual start time.
Yeah.
I can be sort of on deck for that, I guess.
Okay. I will pencil you in as on deck. So that's what's going on with me. I'm at Mark Radulich on TikTok. So there are clips of all of these shows, plus any. So last night, Jesse and I recorded a source material for City of Bane, and I felt like we needed music for it. So I jumped on Suno.ai myself and came up with my own City of Bane song set, kind of, but not really, to Blue Oyster Cult City of Flame with rock and roll. Because get it, City of Flame, City of Bane.
Yeah,
you like
They
jazz?
rhyme.
So, well, also,
yeah.
do you?
And
Also,
yes, I get it. And no, I don't especially care for jazz as a general rule.
I also need a shirt that this is. Do you like jazz, Jesse? Do you like
Well,
jazz?
that's perfect.
from
Mindy
that
on it.
clip, remember? Yes.
Oh. Oh yes.
Anyway, so that's me, Jesse. You do a source material podcast of sorts.
As a matter of fact, I do. And if you want to hear us, me and Mark talk about comics, you could probably tune in today and hear myself and Mark talk about Sons of Anarchy Volume 2.
Yes, and you brought the gag reel back.
I did bring the gag reel back. There was a lot of good stuff in there. We get to learn a little bit about Lee Torek, and then we learn about bring your daughter to the slaughter. So yeah, you can check that out. Me and Mark had a good time talking about Sons of Anarchy, and that's the second in our third installment of talking Sons of Anarchy comics there. So keep an eye out for the next one here in a couple weeks. And yeah, that's on the Source Material Comics podcast feed. So you should be able to punch that into any podcatcher out there and tune right in. We also do the Unspoken Issues podcast where we talk 90s comics and Marvel Snap. That's right. Snap material. Me and Evan Bevins get together and talk about Marvel Snap and those episodes for this past season. Oh, snap. This coming season, last season, that should be dropping tomorrow. So there'll be a lot on the network, probably taking us clear up to Friday. So there you go. That's all I got going on.
Real quick, Jesse and I will be doing TV again. Jesse big time me, and he was like, I don't like what you picked for December. Pick something else. Back to you.
Hang on, wait. Before you tell me what you ultimately settled on, what did you pitch so I can see if I agree with Jesse or not?
I pitched Final because it was one season.
I'm kind of with Jesse on this one.
Anything's better in vinyl, huh?
Yeah, nobody likes vinyl. Honestly,
8-track is superior. I gotcha.
That's a good one.
So
puns, lowest form of humor.
Well, starting in January, Andrew Graham is inserting himself into these TV reviews, and he's making, and because I'm kind of like the Joker, and Robert Winfree is Batman, and I'm tired of fucking with him. I'm tired of torturing Robert. He's boring. So instead, I'm moving on to Superman, who is Jesse, and I'm going to torture him with an entire year's worth of Aaron Sorkin. First The West Wing, and then two and a half seasons of The Newsroom.
That's right.
I want to see if Jesse throws himself off a fucking bridge by the end of 2025 after I'm done.
I've heard a lot of good things about the West. What was it?
The West
Wing. West Wing.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot.
Okay, let me. As someone who's seen all of The West Wing, okay, God help me, I have.
All right.
It was Freak Boy's favorite show back in the day.
That is a show that runs out of steam about 3 seasons before it ends.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
Ouch.
Just be aware of that. Like the last little bit there. The last, like, I think it's the last full season. It might be the last season and a half. is devoted to the election of who's going to succeed
Mhm.
Martin Sheen as president.
Can I tell you, I almost went crazy and was like, we're going to do the West Wing, then the newsroom, then K Street, then Veep. And I was like, all right, at some point, Jesse's just going to like break up with me. If I keep
Yeah,
doing it.
you know, and Mark does this on purpose because I'm not the most political guy. So he's like, hey, let's talk politics. So this ought to be really interesting. This first show is really going to set the tone because
West Wing is.
Hang on. This was Andrew Graham's idea. I just ran with it and went crazy.
Surprise.
So, look, in general, you'll be okay with West Wing. Again, there's some stuff that is dumb and falls on its face. And there's some bad character writing down the stretch because we're just trying to keep. There's a lack of understanding about how to properly move characters forward without doing it at the expense of other characters. That's a whole other discussion. Season 2 of Newsroom might be what gets Jesse to throw you out of a window.
Oh boy.
Just joining us from Hezbollah, Jesse. So
what radicalized you into anti-Semitism, Jesse?
I knew. Podcast.
My friend Mark, now my mortal enemy.
Have you seen the Newsroom? Ugh.
Season 1 starts pretty strong. Everybody loves the monologue from Jeff Daniels at the start of that, but it falls off a cliff fairly quickly. And 2 is
the Newsroom gets a little too in love with itself, but it's
that's what's going to be on Aaron Sorkin's headstone. Little too in love with his own with what he does. Like
Well, anyway, so Jesse big time me before I torture him. He was like, all right, I want one good shot to the nuts. So he says to me, Mark, who did you do Heels with? And I said, Ronnie Adams. But then Ronnie Adams went back to his home planet. So we never finished it. So it's on the pile of not finished shows from the great culling of 2022. And he was like, well, how about we pick that up again and let's do, because it's only 2 seasons. It's over now. Let's finish up Heels. So we're going to finish up Heels next month.
Okay. That tracks.
Yeah. By Jesse's request. Because there's nothing I wouldn't do for Jesse before I torture him to death.
I finished the second season and I was like, I know you guys did the first one and I was looking for the second one, couldn't find it anywhere. And I was like, what happened? So I'm glad, the second season, it's going to be fun to talk about. I'll just put it that way.
Another Starz show, by the way. We're developing a pattern here. We should go back and finish.
It's not going to be as fun as this one. I'll tell you that much.
We should go back and finish Black Sails while we're at it. Another one I only did 1 season of and then dropped. All right. Speaking of 1 season and dropped, Robert, tell us where. What did I say the other night? It was just, something I said to Evan about like show us your ass and how much you fast. I don't remember.
You need to stop while you're ahead. You're turning into me. I start a sentence and then I can't figure out how to finish
old
it.
Man, I trail off into nonsense.
Right, dude.
Hey, these days that gets you elected to political office.
Alrighty.
Okay, hang on. Again, lest anyone assume that I'm making a comment about one candidate in particular. We had one who trails off. We have a sitting president who can't walk through moderate sand, and it spent the last 18 months barely able to finish a sentence. And we got another one who breaks into mindless chuckles like Dr. Hibbert. Like, there's no good choices here, people.
All right, Robert, give us your plugs. Let's get out of here.
Now that I've made Mark very uncomfortable with that. Hey, look, man. So the last 2 major presidential elections, Mark and I did election night coverage, and we did not this time around. So if you want our thoughts on politics, you'll have to tune into various podcasts and glean them instead of us having a place where we just vomited our opinions onto the table for everyone.
What was I doing last Tuesday that I didn't?
Was that a podcast with Evan?
Okay, well that was Monday. No,
Okay.
Tuesday I was. Hey Jesse, you know where I was Tuesday?
Tell me where you were.
Okay, you get 1 free shot after I tell you this.
All right.
I hung out with the Jackie.
I knew that was going to be what came out of your mouth.
Look at the disgust and disappointment. My God, it's like you're my dad. Anyway, back to Robert.
I can only echo Jesse's disappointed facial expressions. That's what I would be doing if I wasn't laughing at this.
That's okay. That's okay. When I told my kids what I was doing, both of them were like, "We're judging you," and I'm like, "Jesus Christ!"
You never
Once again,
listen-
without trying to
what-
poke the bear, as they should.
Mhm.
I mean, come on, Mark. You judge your parents too. It's just kind of what kids do. There's no getting around it.
Given the relationship we have with the parties involved, they were above reproach on that. They can judge.
Good job, kids. I mean, I say that without like malice. Like seriously.
Way to keep your old man in line.
Well, way to have an appropriate dialogue. You know, let me phrase it like that. A lot of kids would just get pissy.
Sure.
I'm around enough 10-year-olds to have a general feel for how badly they react to stuff they don't like. So, if yours was civil, big thumbs up.
Yep, I just got a disdainful glare, not unlike the one I just got from Jesse Starcher.
If Jonas turns into Jesse Starcher's judgment with my like cynicism and wordplay, you're going to be in so much trouble.
We have a distant relationship, Jonas and I.
He still calls me father, but
Yes, but dripping with disdain, father.
why did you bring me into this world?
Father, why do you cohort with whores?
Oh man. I mean, you just said it. Why you? I mean,
Honestly, it's
no
the
hold
cohort.
back,
Why do you cohort?
Anyway,
Oh boy. So I imagine you had a slightly better time than most people did watching the election.
I had an interesting night. It's always an adventure with the Jackie.
Okay. The
That's
sound.
That's
of-
Jesse's pissed at me face.
just the sound Jesse just made. Oh boy.
mhm.
All right. So I only loosely bring that up, one, just to mention that if you had listened to Mark and I do that the previous couple of presidential elections and wondered where we were, well, we didn't do it this year. It would have been interesting to... it would have been interesting for an hour. The other 3 hours while we were waiting for people to make rational decisions about how to call an election.
Would have been a lot of us bumblefucking through various news stories and screens.
You and I vamp pretty good, so we would have made it work, but... so I also bring that up because at Donald Trump's victory speech, he called up Dana White to say a few words, and that's just a little surreal.
Wow.
Little surreal. But, if you're part of the Democratic Party, you shouldn't be surprised that the young men don't vote for you because you don't have a relationship with them or a vision for them. Okay, here's my one political comment. I have to say this because, Mark, you and I have to...
It's an odd place to do this, but okay.
It is, but, Mark, the campaign ads that the Harris campaign were running towards the end, and they were like, oh boy, the young men are breaking away from us. What do we do? And the campaign ads they ran were like, hey, we'll give you weed and porn.
I mean, it's a worthy strategy. I'm not going to lie.
It's really not, though.
I mean, I could see why they went in that direction.
Sure, if you don't listen to young men or talk with them or have a relationship with any of them, you might think, what kind of stupid hedonic dopamine hits can we dangle in front of you to make you think we're on your side?
Interesting strategy to do the same thing like a molester does with a van and candy.
Yeah, it really was. It was one of the ads is a guy actually engaging in self-pleasure, and then a guy in a suit comes in and says, "No more porn. I'm your Republican congressman, and we're going to outlaw this."
That wasn't a real ad, was it?
Yes,
Ugh.
I saw it. I thought it was a parody too. I looked at that and went,
Wow.
somebody did this as a joke. No.
I didn't know that was the thing, and now I feel less bad about the fact that they lost the way they did.
No, like real political ad ran by the vice president of the United States seeking the presidency.
Wow.
I'm with you, man. Like,
I will often reference Tippecanoe and Tyler 2 and drinking cider from a jug because this is what shows you I'm the common man, kind of political. Jesse, go back in your history books. You learned about it in school.
Okay.
that's from closer to his neck of the woods than yours. I'm pretty sure he knows.
And so like so I'll joke about like the drinking jug from a cider to show you that I'm the common man, like presidential ads and stuff like that. And that we've gone from that to like stop jerking off because if you don't, the Republicans will get you. Wow.
If you don't vote for us, they'll take away your porn. You know how many guys would go, you know what? We're better off without it. I mean, it's first of all that. Second of all, if your only relationship to the younger male audience, the 18 to 35, is you think all they want out of life is to be high and watch porn, I can't even begin to explain to you how messed up your worldview is.
I was gonna say if that's you've really got to get into your plugs after this, but if
I
that
will.
is your cornerstone philosophy, you're not going to win an election for the next 20 years. Not a major one, at least.
Yeah. So I had to talk with you about that, Mark, because who else am I going to talk about?
Yeah, okay. Thanks for throwing at the tail end of an Ash versus Evil Dead review. You could have just been like, "Hey, we need to bring back the Whiskey Rebellion. I have shit to say," and I would have just given you the time. But
I don't wish to impose upon your time like that.
okay. Meanwhile, I asked for plugs an hour ago.
All right. So you can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling as a general rule over at 411mania.com, WWE SmackDown on Fridays, most UFC events on Saturdays. Not this Saturday. I will not be able to cover UFC 308.
Really?
Yep. I have a previous commitment that has a time constraint that just I don't know how long it's going to take.
The pay-per-view
And
like at like a normal time, it's the John Jones fight.
I'm aware.
You have a late night commitment?
I have a thing that I don't know how long it's going to go, and it starts at like 9. And I just...
You have a late night commitment? I mean, it sounded like, what the fuck are you doing, sir, at night?
Yeah, like what are you leaving the house
Okay,
at
hang on.
4?
Hang on. First of all, if I do this, I start at the beginning, you casuals.
Oh, that's right. He has to start like 6 o'clock.
I would start
All right.
Okay, look, prelims start at like 5 my time, give or take. Probably 4. So that's when I would have to start. I got a thing that starts at 9 my time, and I don't know if it's going to take 8 hours or longer.
Okay. Moving
So
on.
I just told my editor I can't do it live. I'll do something after the fact.
Mhm.
As much as I don't know. I don't know which one I'd rather be doing as a general rule this time around, but I will. So I won't be covering UFC 30. I won't be covering that one live, which, again, I'm a little sad about because I'm at least moderately curious about Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. I find John Jones and Stipe Miocic to be a waste of everyone's time, but here we are. The UFC cares not for how much of your time they waste. They only care that some network is paying them to air it. For more on that, you can read my review of last Saturday's UFC on ESPN Plus 105 card, an event which lost 2 fights during fight week, had another one shuffle around, and was main evented by Neil Magny in the year of our Lord 2024.
Oh, God.
He got knocked out in the first round at least, but
It's a very Neil Magny thing to do.
but the UFC they have a very clearly tiered system at this point of stuff they care about. These Apex shows, and thank God this was the last Apex show of the year. There's other fight nights, but they're not going to be at the Apex. These are the lowest tier of things they produce, and it's very, very obvious, and nobody cares. Like Dana White doesn't even show up for these half the time or more. But he's there for every power slap. Heyo. So you can read my report in the MMA Zone at 411mania.com. You can listen to a different breakdown over on the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which I host. This last week is a review of that event, a preview of UFC 30. I can never remember if this is 8 or 9. 9. UFC 309. I swear, man, I can remember MMA events clearly from 10 years ago more clearly than I can from 6 months ago. It's a weird thing that they've done with their product. But preview of UFC 309 over there, including my predictions for everything. So give that a listen if you're so inclined. And yeah, damn you, Hollywood, for Red 1 next week, Mark. We get to bury The Rock. We get to drag him into a deep, dark hole.
Yeah. The review embargoes are starting to come off. Apparently, it's not doing well.
Uh-oh.
I am shocked.
Yeah,
Shocked.
I'm sure you are. All right, folks.
Horrified, even.
20 to 30 minutes
Horrified,
ago,
even.
we my goodness. We started to end this show, and then we did plugs, and the plugs are sometimes longer than the segments in the review.
Occasionally.
So for Robert Winfree, who had a bee in his bonnet and a song in his heart, and he had to tell you what it was.
A little bit.
For Jesse Starcher, who was a hostage in all of this, the podcast voyeur.
So
Jesse
hang on. One of us is singing Zippity Doodah, and the other one is being forced to sing Zippity Doodah.
The other one's wearing a bondage mask, being called the Gimp. And I need to go clear my throat. Be well, be safe, and behave.